Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3, the final part for today for Wednesday, April 24th, 2013. I'm Darko, my website's ggnonline.com, and on YouTube my channels are ddarko2012, ddarko2013. Why Western democracy is mind control and invisible government. I'll start off with this. The world is governed by very different personages from what is imagined by those who are not behind the scenes. It says the more Western democracy wants to establish democracy in the world, the more it works undemocratically, whether it's Tripoli in Brussels or in Washington. It says, yet it's very hard nowadays to resist its impeccable and humanitarian propaganda. So it goes on and says, this is why we must seize the origins of this dark strength. Let's go back to the 20s of the last century. We were facing the fascinating confrontation of Western propaganda, Bolshevist propaganda, fascist, Ku Klux Klan or Nazi propaganda, and everywhere capitalism trying to sell its products and stuff. 1928, Edward Bernays, a parent of Sigmund Freud, publishes a famous book about modern propaganda and advertising, which synthesizes the advancements of modern mind control after a terrible world war. And it says here, technical improvements in modern art of conditioning the masses through radio, movies, and press. Basically, Bernays states that the days of democracy are over, and if they have happened, as if they have ever happened once. Everything is linked to science, manipulation, mind control, and the invisible wire pullers when it comes to politics. The masses of consumers, voters, or travelers never do what they want, they just do what they're told through engineered consent. They are invisible rulers who control the destinies of millions. It is not generally realized to what extent the words and actions of our most influential public men are dictated by shrewd persons operating behind the scenes. Bernays wrote that as civilization becomes more complex, and as the need for invisible government has been increasingly demonstrated, the technical means have been invented and developed by which opinion may be regimented. So it goes on and says the citizen of tomorrow needs to be standardized as most as possible. It goes on here and it says that Bernays sees in America the laboratory of the future to create the mixed up, robotic, and standardized citizen of the one world republic. The extraordinary growing insane standardization of stores, offices, streets, hotels, clothes, newspapers throughout the United States. The manipulators of patriotic opinion made use of the mental cliches and the emotional habits of the public to produce mass reactions against the alleged atrocities, the terror, and the tyranny of the enemy. It says here that to create a war against Syria, it's more complicated than to create a war against Germany a century ago. And he says actually talking about these things up here, is a lot harder now. He says actually because we live in a totalitarian state. He says it's more sophisticated. He says you could be labeled a conspiracy theorist. He says lastly, and Bernays does not believe the universal literacy can create a freer man. On the contrary, a well-informed citizen is more manipulated. That's why I like when I talk about people with higher education, how they stress education. But instead of a mind, universal literacy has given him rubber stamps inked with advertising slogans, with editorials, with published scientific data, with the trivialities of the tabloids and the platitudes of history, but quite innocent of original thought. It says we should promote a non-reader citizen, yet he would be a victim of manipulators of images and symbols carried on a cellular phone, the omnipresent companion and transmitter of alienation. Talking about social alienation. It says here, but clearly it is the intelligent minorities which need to make use of the propaganda continuously, in an act of proselytizing minorities in whom selfish interests and public interests coincide lie the progress and development of America. Talking about divide and conquer. Bernays added that humanity is a gregarious species, and that modern science, this great liberator of our superstitions, has thus described our brain. You can meet the disastrous internet sales tax bill Congress is trying to sneak through. If you go and check out this website here, this article. So Congress is hard at work at the moment trying to pass one horrific bill after another. So they're trying to sneak the bill through without normal committee process. It's being dubbed the Patriot Act for the internet. Obama regime bypasses CISPA by secretly allowing internet surveillance. So if you're scared that it might pass, the federal government is already using a secretive cybersecurity program to monitor online traffic and enforce CISPA like data sharing between internet service providers and the Department of Defense. They have secretly authorized the interception of communications carried on portions of networks operated by AT&T and other internet service providers that would otherwise be illegal under federal wiretapping laws. About a shadowy elite, American Free Press says UK Bilderberg 2013 meeting has been confirmed. They received an email from Grove Hotel staffer apparently confirming that Bilderberg 2013 will be going down near Watford in the UK from June 6th to June 9th. Hacked photos show Colin Powell at Bohemian Grove. You can go in there and check it out. Apparently this is the photo. The world's most powerful mercenary armies. The first one is G4S, second largest private employer on Earth, 625,000 employees behind Walmart. It says here Unity Resources Group is active in the Middle East, Africa, Americas, and Asia. It says it's been able to grow its presence in Iraq as sovereign armies withdraw. They've also trained Chilean soldiers to man gates and machine gun nests, I would imagine, for embassies, including the Australian embassy. Armies has guarded most of Iraq's vital oil assets. So, it has followed U.S. State Department contracts to Iraq. Its biggest mission took 16,000 of its guards to basically protect key oil pipelines. Remember Karzai, kind of the puppet in Afghanistan who's managing the opium trade and doing whatever the West tells him. Asia's security group is a powerful Afghan force linked to President Karzai. It's formerly owned by the cousin of Afghan President Karzai. So they got their own armies, right? Their own meetings, their own form of democracy, if you call it that. High school seniors show little improvement on economic issues, despite the wealth consolidation operation and political integration of 2008, which focused the nation's attention on the economy and stealing a lot of money into a few hands. High school seniors on average showed no significant improvement in their understanding of economic issues between 2006 and 2012, according to new testing data released Wednesday by the federal government. So it goes on here and it says that the exam was designed to test knowledge and understanding of markets and national and international economies. There's a gap between boys and girls, with boys consistently scoring higher. Also, students attending private high schools consistently outscored those attending public high schools. Also, in 2012, students reported getting more of their information about the economy from the internet and less from newspapers and magazines than they did in 2006. Economists, long-term joblessness is national emergency. So, long-term unemployment has become a national emergency that requires new and creative steps if it is to be reversed before it does permanent damage, says some economists. So those are jobs that aren't coming back. And like I said, they'll be replaced with foreign workers outsourcing and robo-sourcing, robots. Ben Affleck, I plan to live on $1.50 a day, so for at least one day, to bring awareness to global poverty. And that's kind of the new normal, right? So like the new normal is another new normal. Girls, you have narcissistic, broke, and 7 other ways to describe the millennial generation. The new generation of adults portrayed mostly by HBO girls has proved quite difficult to define. So they're born in the 80s and 90s, a compromised generation that continues to elude a neat definition. Millennials are less inclined to join a commune or a movement and would rather start a small business. They call them Generation Cell. Study shows that millennials who have been swamped by ad campaigns since they were in the crib are more likely than other elders to spend big, especially on new technologies. Besides them not being good entrepreneurs, mostly because the public education system, the system itself isn't really there to raise leaders or raise business owners, right? Entrepreneurs. They teach you how to be a good wage or salary slave, right? A good tax slave. That's what they're there to do. A new survey shows 25% of millennials reported not having enough money to cover their basic needs, a much higher percentage in older generations, so they're broke. They're socialists. Looks like the right-wing cries of socialist takeover might be based in more than paranoia. Polls shows that 49% of millennials view socialism in a favorable light, compared with 43% who view it unfavorably. It also shows that millennials are more narcissistic than their elders, so increasingly value money, image, and fame more than inherent principles like self-acceptance, affiliation, and community. It's funny because they're talking about how they're leading the Occupy movement against the anti-corporate movement. But it says here, while college students in 71 ranked being very well off financially as their number 8 concern, millennials is consistently at the top of the list. They're less religious. It says here they're increasingly moving away from religious affiliations of their childhood. So also they're stressed out. Krugman and Keynesians are lackeys for the Neofeudal Debtocracy, basically, what we're just talking about. If you set out to design a system that would implode with devastating consequences, it would be the Keynesian cargo cult's Neofeudal financialization. So the heart and soul of the Keynesian cargo cult is the dogma that the cure for all economic ailments is more aggregate demand, i.e. consumptions. The system directly supports a parasitic neo-feudal debt serfdom. Eurozone debt levels reach record. Says the government debt levels reached the highest level on record last year. So it said even as austerity measures around the single currency area narrowed budget deficits levels amid a deepening recession. So this is good for the usury system to keep loaning, and ballooning debt. So the coming challenge to the U.S. economic dominance. So what is it? The BRICS, right? Well, the BRICS is just another scam to launder money for future generations. Spain's Rajoy yields to Merkel, agrees that EU countries must cede sovereignty. Compared to bowing to their overlords in Berlin. The British are gloomy about their economic future, says a new poll. They basically uncovered public frustration at the persisting economic woes, with voters saying a full recovery will take anywhere between 4 to 10 years to come true. The Obama regime is paying people to recruit folks onto food stamps. It says fraud more than doubles in 3 years, $750 million each year. It says here it's her job, the recruiter, to enroll at least 150 seniors for food stamps each month, a quota she usually exceeds, to alleviate hunger and lessen poverty. They say here that it's been good for the local economy, economic growth, and good for the grocery stores and food producers, but it also adds rising federal entitlement spending and the U.S. debt. From the 15th of this month, U.S. households on food stamps hit record high. So, this is it's going to eventually come to a head here. Child hunger is exploding, it says here in Greece, and 14 signs that it is starting to happen in America too. That's why, they have eugenics in that. That's why, children are starving, because, they're useless eaters. They don't need to be there to work for the elites anymore. So it says here at some schools there are even reports of children actually begging for food from their classmates. In the UK, it says here that food rations have increased by 170%. It's one of the reasons why they get up when the people say that things are getting better. Yes, the stock market has been setting record highs, but things are definitely not getting better. It is projected that approximately 50% of all U.S. children will be on food stamps before they reach the age of 18. Victim of family court, Katerina Haleva, seeks to uncover Utah government child kidnapping. So, activist post has been documenting the harrowing case of this person who was separated from her son through the Utah family court system. She's asking others who have been victimized to come forward. It says here there's a full-scale investigation. You can contact her with her email address. After death experiences, the data suggests that consciousness is not annihilated. So this person practices resuscitation medicine, basically that she helps bring people back from the dead, and some return with stories. It says here that he had a profound experience. He said he told me that he felt incredibly peaceful and saw this big, perfect being full of love and compassion. It says it's not uncommon. People tend to interpret what they see based on their background, including Hindus see a Hindu god, and vice versa. Different cultures see the same thing, but their interpretation depends on what they believe. Second child dies after parents pick prayer over medicine, so bad parents. So it says here they failed to get medical attention for the 2-year-old son Kent in 2009, preferring instead to pray over him, and he died of bacterial pneumonia. They were convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 2011. It says despite the fact that their probation required them to seek medical attention for their other child, they chose to use prayer as well. I guess their child died on Thursday. So probably a Masonic judge here says, when I asked why you didn't call a doctor or seek professionals, you said, because we believe God wants us to ask him for healing. You did that once and the consequences were tragic. So, it's like parents talking to kids, right? Never mind this douchebag running around the world vaccinating people to call the population, Bill Gates to pitch new strategy to eradicate polio by 2018. says here, a Mormon offshoot moves towards gay marriage. Rhode Island Senate clears path to gay marriage. Nevada senator comes out during gay marriage vote. NFL's first openly gay player could be Middle Tennessee kicker. Topless pro-LGBT protesters beat breast and squirt water at Catholic Archbishop. Women's joblessness is soaring in the UK. 4 female service members are reporting sexual abuse. That's what they're there for. Like I said, 4 female officers had gang leaders' babies.